You worked at Rampart, where one of the craziest police divisions. They were the ones involved in the scandal and everything. During your time there, you did you see a lot of like corruption and abuse and racism within the police
Well,
department?
yes, I did. Not so much corruption, stealing money. I didn't see anything like that. But I did see officers beating people for no reason, just getting out their aggression and being told as a young rookie cop going to Rampart from the police academy. I was kind of like, what the heck is going on here? It just seems something like out of the Twilight Zone. But having had a father-in-law who brought me onto the job, he was able to tell my supervisors, my training officers, hey, this is going to be one of the guys who's going to marry my daughter one day. And ironically, he exhibited quite a bit of racism, my ex-father-in-law, because one of the things that he told me upon coming out of the academy was he talked about black people being fun people. And I asked him one day while we were out, and he said, well, what do you think about these fun people, Alex? And I was like, what do you mean fun people? And then he said, well, I'm glad you asked them. These are some fucked up niggers. And I was just kind of taken aback from that.
Wow.
And so that appeared to be a very popular, I guess, acronym there to describe blacks. There was some others that were also created for Mexicans and Asians. And overall, it was a very, very racist environment where it wasn't just white officers too. Let's just say this, it was also involved Latino officers, it involved Asian officers, it involved black officers who, we all wanted to fit into the whole social white man's role of having, been, now a respected member of society, don't you know, where, we were now part of the system and it was us versus them, the public, and we had our own little, ways and rules of doing things. And so I became part of that brainwash system along with other individuals who went along with, the corruption.
Yeah, you were a Latino officer yourself, right?
Yes, that is correct. And
So,
I talk about it quite a bit. How
yeah,
I actually thought that I was becoming white or was white. If there is such a crazy way of becoming.
yeah. Well, like what would happen when you would pull over somebody who was also a Latino? Would you treat him as less than you, or would you try to protect him more from the other officers? How would you deal with that?
Well, initially, I like to think that I was still very idealistic. My first year in law enforcement, I still believed that I could help people. It wasn't until around my second year where I had this incident, life changing incident that I mentioned, where I got ran over, beaten up, and in trying to help out this woman who was involved in this robbery. And so afterwards, the PTSD kicked in. I was having nightmares of getting attacked. I was becoming abusive to my then first wife, and just becoming a very angry person. And so, the first year I did what I felt a police officer should do, and that is be compassionate, be kind. After I got my ass kicked the second year, that kind of changed. I had a different viewpoint of Latinos and blacks and anyone that wasn't a cop, of course. I had it in my mind because I had been viciously attacked that, all these people were bad. And so instead of being in a place where maybe I should have been retired or forced off the force because, I had all these anger issues inside of me. I had begun drinking and womanizing, doing all kinds of stuff that were contrary to the person that I was prior to being run over. And so it tremendously affected me to the point where I covered for my partners, and instead of helping out these poor people, I was actually a perpetrator of the crimes too.
Yeah. Do you think that happens with most officers over time? They just start to get worse and worse and just accept what they shouldn't be accepting.
Well, it can happen, yes. I don't know how many sick, mentally ill piece of shit pigs are out there, my friend, but there's a lot. Okay, the public does not even begin to know how bad some of these police officers are. And it's only by the grace of God and people having access to cameras that we're able to address these social issues now, because before, previously, all this was swept under the rug. Okay,
Yeah.
all this was swept under the rug, and basically, it was the police officer's word against the citizen, you know, and unless you had some sort of videotape or something that would show that the police officer was lying, well, then the police officer was always right. And so that continues to be, to this very day, the premise that the police are often believed. And so, that needs to be changed, because, this whole system's about to erupt. It's breaking down as we as we speak. This is probably, the most important crisis social issue that our country has ever faced, where people are just sick and tired of being treated like animals, being treated like thugs, being looked down upon by these individuals who believe and think that their shit don't stink. And guess what? It does stink, of course, because they're human beings just like us. The problem is how they have been trained into this insular culture, which is a culture that has, existed for the longest. And that's what we need to destroy here. I hope that answers your question, by the way.
Yeah, you're really answering the questions in detail. It's awesome.